A, B. שלום, אני שמח שחזרתם אחרי ההפסקה. המרצה הבא שלנו, our next speaker, English, right?
Right.
Our next speaker came all the way from Russia. Just for the air. When did you get to Israel now?
3 weeks ago.
5 hours ago? Wow. Just for the meetup. And when are you going back to Russia, or you staying?
So tomorrow, 5 in the morning.
Tomorrow, 5 in the morning. Wow, so party all night.
Yes.
Okay, so after meetup, like after party. So, Ilya.
Thanks. Will this one hear me? Because yeah, like
You stand here.
Well, I'm going to move. Do you hear me anyway?
Yeah.
Is this all right?
Yes, fine.
Great, thanks. So my name is Ilya Berman. I'm an information designer, and I do things like transport maps like this and this. I do UI design for all kinds of apps, like this one for iPhone, for the Apple Watch. Can we turn off the lights? Maybe just dim it a little bit because you can't see stuff. This one is a DJ app for the iPad. And also I do some tools for web developers, like these 3. You can check them out on ilyaberman.net, which is my website. And also I work for a company which is called Artem Gorbanov Design Bureau, which is a design bureau in Moscow, Russia. And we do things like, like maps. That was good enough, right? So just leave it like this.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect, thanks. Like maps, signage and wayfinding, advertising, fonts even, UI design, and web design, and you can check for more of what we do at our website at artgorbanov.ru/em for English, and this one I will mention in my talk. And so this is just a couple of words about where I come from, and my talk is called UI Animation for Things. So I will talk about animation. I will have no code in my slides, right? I'm not a programmer, even though I do some programming for my soul, but I'm not a professional programmer. So I think you know much more about that than I do, so I'm trying to explain the things I want to explain in words. So designers are concerned with things, when we talk about animation, with things like how do you draw attention, how do you explain stuff with animation? How do you make things more understandable to the user? How do you make things appear more realistic, like in the UI, and how you entertain? Oops, that was an example of an entertainment. How you entertain the user with the animation, and but if you look at that from the point of view of the developer, it's more about performance, interoperability, how you make this work smooth in different browsers and different platforms and so on. But there is that dot in the middle. There are some things that I want to talk about today which are definitely about design, but there are those parts of design which are implemented by the hands of developer almost inevitably because things like icons, like fonts, like I don't know, textures, and everything else, you can just take from the designer and use. But when you talk about animation, you usually have to re-implement what they show you in code. Some designers would show what they mean by pictures, maybe with arrows, maybe with words. Some designers would show you a video of what they mean, but in any case, you will have to code it to make it work the way they want. So it's the design that you make with your hands. And so the end result depends solely on how you implement that. And so I want to name 4 qualities of a good animation, which I just think are important. They are this is not like a final list, and some of them even contradict each other, as you will see. But still, that is something to think about whenever you work on an animation. So you want your animation to be non-obtrusive, natural, coordinated, and clean. And I will explain what I mean by every one of those. These are my 4 things. So non-obtrusive. Sometimes you see an animation which is just too much, right? So this one I found somewhere, I don't remember, and there's lots going on here. And you can see that lots of effort, lots of care was put into it, so it's really well designed. If you look at some details, you see how those icons build from the lines, and everything is nice, right? So you can enjoy it as a movie. But if you imagine this and in a real user interface, like imagine your Facebook app behaved like this, you would hate it in an hour, right? Or maybe even faster. This guy. Anyway, so you don't want that. And also this thing doesn't work every time. This thing is also now a popular pattern when you have text fields with the labels, and when you focus the field, the labels like moves to the border. And this was fun when someone invented it and used it for the first time, but if you have a long form and the user has to work with it every now and then, this becomes too irritating. There's just too much motion going on, which makes no sense, which doesn't add anything useful, which doesn't explain anything, and frankly doesn't add any fun, because it feels like, you know, when you're trying to concentrate on your work and there's a bee flying around, you just want it to stop. And this is like that, so you don't want that either. If you're using Mac OS, maybe you're using the desktop feature, you know, when you switch from one to another with different windows and it moves. And that's the only way it can work. I mean, if you don't hack into the system, that's how it works. Do you know the feature I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you move back, again, it's hello. Just this large movement. And if you're using a large screen, like a 27-inch iMac, and you have several of those desktops, and you work all day, and you have all this motion in front of you, you will get motion sickness. It's just too much. And unfortunately, that's how it works. And some people even decide to somehow disable it, to hack into the system to disable it. I don't know how to do that. Or some people install different apps to do this feature that lets them tune this animation or even disable the animation at all. So how this could work? Instead of playing the whole animation, instead of showing the full motion from one state to another, you can just hint at what's going on, like this. So what happens here is, instead of moving the whole screen away and moving another screen onto the screen, you can just hint at that motion by crossfading the screen and adding just a little of that motion, just to hint at the direction, because the animation itself makes sense. It has a meaning, and it's useful for the user to understand how the screens are related, right? So it helps orient between many of those screens, so you don't want to remove it completely. But if you just do this crossfading and just a little bit of motion, that's more than enough to understand what has happened. And so you always want to strive for this kind of animations when something happens many times in your user interface. Unfortunately, Apple doesn't do that, but they do rather good animation on the watch. Unfortunately, the video is not very high quality, but anyway, you can see this is the app that measures your heartbeat. And when it takes another measurement and this changes, you can see that these numbers like roll. This is there. So they emulate this, like the numbers are printed on a barrel or something, and they rotate, and like they have some logs and alarm clocks. But if you notice, they don't show all the digits that are between the previous one and the next one. There's always the next digit they have to show immediately next to the one that is showing, right? So this is not true. But if they shown every one of those digits, this will be just too much. So they hint at this animation, and they do it in a very, very calm way. So that's a good example of what you could do to make your animation non-obtrusive. The next one is natural. So let me take a cup of water. So what I mean by natural is that the animation has to do with the content that is being animated. So I will show it on an example. So imagine you have a widget on your website or some app where you show some market performance of gold, right? And you have several ways to display this widget. So you have that this way. Another view has more detail. The graph, the chart is compressed on top, but you have more detail here, like the daily low and high and change and whatever. And also you have a Zen node. widget have two large sell and buy buttons and nothing else. But for those who don't care, who just wants to press the buttons. And when the user changes this way to display the widget, you want to add some animation, not just immediately switch them like you saw here, but to do something more visually attractive. And so, what can you do? Well, you can just crossfade them. You can maybe do something like this. I don't know. You can do something like this, but this is probably too obtrusive, right? Too much is going on. A programmer whom I was showing this suggested that we do this. And again, well, this is nice, but you can make it even more fancy by adding some other effect. I had to show this because Apple's Keynote has this effect built in, so I just had to use it in this presentation. Anyway, some of these animations are more obtrusive, some are less obtrusive. Probably crossfading is the least obtrusive of them, but all of them have a problem that they don't care about what's inside this, right? They're just an animation as an effect which is put on top of what's drawn in the widget. So here's the animation that was actually designed for this widget. And, well, I personally think it's nicer, but it's not just that it is nicer. There is a qualitative difference between this one and all the previous ones, because they don't know about what's inside the widget, and this one does. So whenever you switch from one view to another, something happens with the content, as if this content had some nature to it. It behaves the way you want it to behave. And it doesn't even feel like there's some animation going on, like a special feature. Like when you open a door, you don't think that the door animates from the closed state to the open state. That's just the physics, that's just the nature of the door. It cannot immediately happen to be open if it was closed like a nanosecond ago, right? So this is what happens here. So every part of this UI has some way that it behaves. So if you watch this in slow-mo, you see when you switch between chart and detail, this chart it's squeezed onto the top, and these details slide from the bottom. And if you switch, from detail to Zen, then again the details get compressed and the buttons come from below. And so this is natural in a sense that it has to do with the nature of the stuff which is being shown. So that's what you want to do. The next thing is coordinated. So you want your animation to be coordinated. And what I mean by that is you want the things happen in one motion which is driven by one force. So again, examples are better than any words. This is a hamburger menu that you can see on many websites that are optimized for mobile view. So you tap it or click it, and some kind of sidebar gets into view with the menu. And this thing turns into an X icon, like to close this menu. And this is how it happens in this animation. This is sort of okay, but it is not coordinated. It happens in 3 separate motions that you can describe. So first the top and the bottom lines compressing the dots, and those dots connect, and then the whole thing rotates at 45 degrees. And on the closed thing, the reverse action happens again in 3 steps. This is not particularly elegant. And this is another way to implement this animation in one motion. So this is much nicer. This is what you want. I don't know how many of you noticed, but in the widget you have this thing which explains in which unit is the thing measured. So gold is measured in ounces per to US dollar. And this is noted in both the chart view and this detail view. And so if you only think about your animation being natural, it may be your instinct to do the animation like this. So if you have this thing in both of the views, you will want to move them from the original location to their final location like this. Unfortunately, this is not a good idea. So this doesn't look coordinated because everything moves up and down. That's the general feeling of how things move. But this one, for some reason, moves from left to right and back. And this, frankly, feels like a bug. So it draws too much attention to this piece of text for no good reason. So you don't want that. You want to just forget that it's the same string of text and just fade it from the original state to the final state, maintaining this motion up and down, which is natural for the whole thing. So this makes it more pleasant to look at. And the same for the switch between detail view and the Zen view. So it may be your first idea that if you have these small buttons here and the big buttons here, then when you switch from the one view to the other view, you would want to make these buttons larger and then shrink them back to their original place. That's not what we do here. So that's what you would want to do probably if you just think about the natural part. But again, if you don't remember, here's how the whole thing works. So we just pull the buttons from the below, covering the small buttons, but not moving them in any way. And again, this is to maintain this coordinated motion. So everything moves up and down. Nothing moves diagonally during that animation. This is an iPhone, as I guess you know. This is a small video that I have stolen from the Apple's presentation when they were discussing the rotation in the UI. And as you know, if you rotate your iPhone, the UI rotates also. And that's how it happens. But if you look at this in slow-mo, you will notice some strange things are happening here. So if you look at the keyboard or at the toolbar on top, you will see that they just have two images, the original one and the final one, and they just crossfade and also stretch them instead of repainting the whole UI at every point in this animation, which lets them play this animation much, much faster because they don't have to recalculate everything and they can just do it with GPU. And also, they don't have to draw every button in code and know for each button how to lay it out at every single size of the keyboard that can happen during the animation. They can just have two images of the keyboard and just blend them into each other. And this is a really powerful trick that you can use wherever you like. For example, if you want to, I don't know, these just two images that I had on my desktop when I was preparing this, and I just dragged them into the keynote. Anyway, so you have two images, and to get from one to another, you can just crossfade them and also stretch them so that the proportions of one are just converted to the proportions of the other. And this is completely counter to what I've said in the natural section, right? So this has nothing to do with the content of this animation. But if the content is quite close, then this will look good. This will look much better than if some other small motions are happening inside the moving parts. So, and again, for web development, this is particularly a powerful trick because, as you of course know better than I do, this is expensive stuff, and if you want many frames per second, you don't want a browser to reflow the document, you just want everything to be done in GPU, and this is the thing that can be done with like transform, CSS things and whatever, and this is fast. And this was fast on iPhone 1 almost 10 years ago, right? So today we can do this really good. So this is coordinated. And the final thing here is you want your animation to be clean. So after you've gone through all of these, you may probably notice that there are some parts of your animation where, if you look closely, there's something in there that is just a little bit dirty that you don't want to see there. So I will show you an example. This is a basket of a website called gladysschustering.com, which we were doing in the bureau where I work. And this is a website of a company that sells antique and vintage stuff like dishes, cutlery, armchairs. You can buy like a Victorian age armchair from them. And they're based in Oxford, so it's basket, not cart, because they're in England and they don't use the word cart. Anyway, I was not involved in the design of the whole website, but I was doing the UI for the basket. And what we wanted here is that in addition to showing all the items you have in the basket, which are on top, and to the obvious shipping address details, we wanted to show some more goods that we want to add to the user's basket, maybe. And this is some other things that probably will fit the items they have already added. So by this, we want them to buy more, obviously. The problem is this, is that this one is like a really tall image, which you can see in Photoshop if you zoom out, but in a real browser of most of the users, there will be something like this, right? Because most users don't make their browsers too tall and they don't have big enough screens. So most users won't even see this black area without the things that we want them to buy. So we wanted to do it in some other way. Here's what we've invented. So, okay, invented maybe is a strong word, but anyway, that's what we've done. So this is a rather small screen, like, I don't know, 11-inch MacBook Air will have something like this. And after you've added just one item to your cart, if we, instead of showing the full form to fill in the shipping address, we just show one line, and we will call it name and address, then at least part of this black area with our goods will be visible. And so if the user has a little bit bigger screen, maybe they will fit 2 items in the cart and still see this. And so what we wanted to do is to expand the form only when the user focuses it, right? Because it's more important for us to show this, and this thing will work whenever you start using it. So we needed an animation to expand the form. This is nothing fancy at all. It's just a stupid animation to expand the form. And this is what it looked like when I first implemented it. And I will try to show you what's wrong with it, if my computer lets me. Hey, here. So, I don't know if you've noticed it when it was playing, but inside this animation there's this problem where the word name is expanding off top of existing word name, and this is dirty. And also you can see the line, which is the underline of the first field of the form, which is moving from the top and getting its opacity grow from 0 to 1. And again, you see these 3 lines of differing opacities and the word name along with another word name. This is not clean. So you want to remove that. And let me see. Okay, I should have recorded this in slow mo also, but I haven't. So here's how we've done it in the shipping website. I don't know if you've noticed the difference, but again, this is what it was at first, and this is the final result. Again, I will show you the difference here. So in the final implementation, when the user focused the field, we would immediately remove this gray label and replace it with a black word name, because it was already there. Whenever the user focuses a field, they want the field to be focused immediately. You don't need any animation there. So just focus the field and make it editable right there. And only after that, we use this field as a mask, which masks the animation which is happening under it. And only the things that are under this field appear like this. Oh, sorry. Okay, I should have practiced this. You see? And this part of line that is not necessary anymore, we were trying to just shrink it and move it here during the animation, it didn't look well because it broke the coordinated part. So something moved to the right when everything was moving down. And so we just were fading it out. And this way, it looked a little bit cleaner. And that's the final step that you would want to do. Anyway, you want your animation to be non-obtrusive, natural, coordinated, and clean. I hope I explained what I mean by those words. And sometimes the designer wouldn't even know how to do this, because in many cases, before you research the stuff, you just see it somewhere in some app, on some device, and you will talk to your colleague who's doing the coding in words like, well, I want it smooth like that, or I want it beautiful like this, I want it to fly in a way like that thing flies. And so you want to know the nature of these things, and there are some secrets that I've learned, and hopefully you find them helpful. And here's my website where you can look for something. I don't know. That's it. Thanks.